When a woman makes the decision to move away for a job, it often reveals more than just a career choice. It uncovers the truth about her priorities. A relationship thrives when both people see each other as central to their future, when the bond is so strong that every decision is made with the we in mind, not just the me. But when she chooses to relocate, especially without your influence being a strong part of that choice, what it really shows is where you stand in her long-term vision, and that's not always easy to face. It's natural to want to believe that love can withstand anything, that distance doesn't matter if the feelings are strong enough. We've all heard the hopeful phrases, love conquers all, or if it's meant to be, it will be. But reality often tells a different story. When she's willing to pack up her life and move somewhere else for work, it means she has placed that opportunity above your relationship. That doesn't make her a bad person. It simply makes her human. People go where they believe their growth, their fulfillment, and their future lies. And if you're not part of that equation, the truth is hard but simple. You're not her number one priority. When a woman is deeply in love and truly sees you as her partner for life, every decision she makes will consider how it affects you in the relationship. She won't just move without weighing what it means for the bond you share. But when the choice is made without much concern for how you fit into it, it becomes a window into her mindset. She's not building a future with you in mind. She's building a future for herself, and you may or may not be part of it. That realization is painful, but it's also liberating. Because at the end of the day, a man who values himself doesn't beg to be prioritized. He doesn't chase after someone who already showed him where he stands. If her career move comes first, then it's your wake-up call to stop putting her on a pedestal and start seeing the situation for what it is. And the beauty of this truth is that it saves you from wasting months or years clinging to something that's already slipping away. Distance doesn't just stretch miles. It stretches priorities, it stretches emotional energy, and it stretches commitment. And the person who chose to move is often the one who gradually lets go first. Instead of fooling yourself into believing it'll be the same, pay attention to what her decision reveals. It's not the distance that ends most relationships. It's the fact that one person has already decided to put something else above the bond you once shared. The sooner you accept this reality, the sooner you free yourself to attract someone who will never think twice about making you part of her future. When a woman moves away for a job, the thing that starts to erode first isn't love itself, it's consistency. Relationships are built on rhythm, the little moments of connection that add up day after day. The morning texts, the evening calls, the spontaneous plans, the laughter you share in person, these are the threads that keep intimacy alive. But when distance enters the picture, those threads begin to stretch, and sooner or later, they weaken. Consistency, the lifeblood of connection, starts to fade, and with it, the relationship itself begins to lose its spark. In the beginning, it might feel like nothing will change. You both make promises, you schedule regular calls, you say you'll visit often, and the effort feels strong. But over time, reality takes its toll. Work consumes her energy, new people enter her life, and the rhythm you once had together begins to break apart. A missed call here, a delayed reply there. It doesn't happen all at once, but gradually the consistency that once made the bond so strong starts slipping away. And once consistency fades, so does reliability. And once reliability fades, so does trust. What's important to understand is that women feel love most through consistency. It's not the grand gestures that matter as much as the steady presence of a man who shows up every single day. When that presence is disrupted by distance, the bond weakens. Even if she still cares about you, her emotional world adapts to her new environment. She becomes more engaged with the people around her physically than with the person she's only connecting with through a screen. And no matter how much technology bridges the gap, nothing can replace face-to-face presence. For a man, this can feel like betrayal. You may notice her texts get shorter, her enthusiasm fades, and her calls feel rushed instead of warm. The consistency you once counted on begins to feel like an obligation rather than a joy. That shift is the warning sign most men try to ignore, but it's the truth staring them in the face. When consistency dies, attraction soon follows. The strongest relationships are the ones where both partners work to maintain that rhythm no matter the circumstances. But the reality is, when she makes the choice to move for her job, she also chooses a new, daily rhythm without you. And that's what makes long distance so hard, not just the miles, but the erosion of these simple, consistent acts of love that hold a relationship together. If she can't sustain that consistency, it's not your job to beg for it. A man who respects himself doesn't chase, doesn't plead, and doesn't cling to a fading connection. He recognizes that if her consistency has vanished, so has the relationship. And instead of forcing what's dying, he accepts the truth and frees himself for someone who values his presence enough to keep that consistency alive. When distance enters a relationship, effort becomes the ultimate truth teller. It's easy to say, we'll make it work, or nothing will change, but words mean little if they're not backed by consistent action. Effort is what separates someone who truly values you from someone who only values you when it's convenient. When a woman moves away for a job, her level of effort will reveal exactly how much you matter to her. And often it's not what most men hope to see. At the start, she may go out of her way to keep the spark alive. She'll text often, call late at night, and check in on your day. That's the honeymoon phase of long distance, when both of you are still clinging to the emotional high of the relationship. But effort over time is what counts, not the bursts of enthusiasm in the beginning. As weeks and months pass, effort naturally separates the genuine from the temporary. If she's truly invested, she'll find ways to keep the bond strong despite the miles. If she's not, her effort will fade and you'll notice it in every interaction. Here's the reality. People make time for what matters. A woman who truly wants you in her life will find ways to stay connected no matter how busy she gets or how demanding her job becomes. She'll prioritize seeing you, even if it means rearranging her schedule. But if her career and her new surroundings consistently come first and you're always second, her lack of effort speaks louder than any words she could say. That doesn't mean she doesn't care at all. It simply means her priorities have shifted and you're no longer at the top. Men often make the mistake of compensating for her fading effort by doubling their own. They text more, call more, try harder to close the distance emotionally and hope that she'll mirror their investment. But the harder you chase, the more you highlight the imbalance. Attraction doesn't grow from pressure, it grows from mutual desire. If you're the only one putting in effort, the imbalance will eventually drain you while she continues to drift. The real test of effort isn't about what happens when things are easy, but about what happens when life gets complicated. Distance is one of those complications. If she's still showing up, still engaging, still prioritizing you despite the challenges, then you know you're dealing with someone who values the relationship deeply. But if her effort fades with the first real obstacle, you have your answer. She may have cared, but not enough to fight for it. A man who values himself pays attention to this balance of effort. He doesn't cling to someone who gives less and less. Instead, he recognizes that love without effort isn't love at all. And if her effort has diminished, it's not your job to fix it. It's your cue to accept reality and move forward with strength. When a woman moves away for a job, she's not just changing her location. She's stepping into an entirely new world filled with opportunities, people, and experiences that weren't part of her life before. And while it might sound harsh, the reality is that new opportunities often replace old bonds. This doesn't necessarily mean she stops caring about you overnight, but it does mean that the emotional space you once filled in her life begins to shift. The routines you shared, the comfort of familiarity, and the intimacy of being part of her everyday life get replaced by fresh surroundings and new influences. But think about it. When someone enters a new environment, they adapt. She meets new colleagues, builds new friendships, and creates a new lifestyle centered around her job and her surroundings. Those people become her daily reality. And over time, her emotional energy naturally gravitates toward what is immediate and present. The calls with you that once felt effortless start to feel like a task she has to fit in. The texts that used to flow easily now get shorter or delayed, not because she doesn't care at all, but because she's distracted by the world in front of her. This is where many men misinterpret the situation. They believe distance alone is the problem, when in truth, it's the shift in her emotional focus. The bond you once had gets slowly replaced by her new routines and the excitement of new experiences. And here's the truth most men don't want to face. Once she starts building a life that doesn't include you at the center, you're no longer essential to her happiness. The space you occupied gets filled with something else, and often someone else down the road. That's why trying to cling harder or demand more of her attention only backfires. The more you push, the more you remind her that her emotional energy is elsewhere, and instead of drawing her back in, you push her further away. A high-value man understands that when a woman allows new opportunities to replace the bond you shared, it's not his job to fight for space in her new world. It's his job to recognize the shift and respect himself enough not to beg for scraps of her time and energy. The truth is, when she moves away, the relationship doesn't always end immediately. It fades. It fades in the silence, between shorter conversations, in the absence of effort, in the way she prioritizes her new life over the one you had together. And when you pay attention, you'll see it clearly. New opportunities aren't just part of her life. They've started to replace you. Instead of fighting what's already slipping, the strongest choice you can make is acceptance. When she chooses a new world without you at the center, you must choose yourself and trust that. The right woman will never allow opportunities to erase the bond you share. Emotional investment is the heartbeat of any relationship. It's what keeps two people connected even when life gets busy, even when challenges arise, even when things aren't perfect. But when distance enters the picture, especially when she has moved away for a job, that investment often begins to quietly decline. At first, it's almost unnoticeable. She still checks in, still says she misses you, still makes an effort to stay connected. But slowly, the tone shifts. The warmth fades. The enthusiasm that once came naturally begins to feel forced. And before long, you realize that the depth of her emotional investment is no longer the same as it once was. What makes this decline so difficult to accept is that it doesn't happen all at once. It's subtle. The calls that used to last hours become quick check-ins. The texts that used to be playful and affectionate turn into short, generic responses. Conversations that once flowed easily now feel like work. You can sense that her mind and her heart are somewhere else, but she may not admit it openly. Instead, she tells you she's just tired, busy, or stressed. But deep down, you know it's more than that. Her emotional energy is no longer being directed toward you. Here's the reality. People invest emotionally where they see their future. When she was with you daily, you were part of her vision, part of her world. But once she moves and begins creating a new life without you, that investment slowly shifts. She begins pouring her emotional energy into her career, her new environment, and the people around her. And as her investment in her new life grows, her investment in you naturally declines. That's why long distance is rarely about distance alone. It's about the redistribution of emotional energy. This decline often leaves men scrambling. They sense her pulling away, and in response, they push harder. They call more, text more, try to plan visits, and essentially try to force her to keep investing. But effort can't replace genuine desire. If she's no longer emotionally invested, your attempts to pull her back will only make her feel pressured, and that pressure will speed up the detachment. A high-value man understands that you can't hold on to someone whose heart is already leaving. The truth is, relationships don't end the moment someone stops showing up physically. They end when someone stops showing up emotionally. When she no longer invests in you, the connection is already broken, even if she hasn't admitted it yet. That's why it's so important not to ignore the signs. Emotional distance is often the loudest warning signal, even when she claims everything is fine. When you notice her emotional investment fading, the strongest response is not to fight harder for her attention, but to recognize what's happening and accept it. Because the woman who truly loves you, the one who sees you as part of her life long term, will never allow distance to kill her emotional bond with you. Acceptance is one of the hardest lessons a man has to learn in relationships, but it's also one of the most powerful. When a woman chooses to move away for a job and the signs begin to show that her priorities, her effort, and her emotional investment are shifting, the natural instinct for many men is to fight. They think if they just try harder, prove themselves more, or find the right words, they can reignite the spark. But chasing after someone who has already shown you that you are no longer at the center of her life only lowers your value and prolongs your pain. True strength comes from acceptance, seeing the situation for what it is, not what you wish it could be. Acceptance doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you suddenly switch off your emotions and feel nothing. It means you value yourself enough not to hold on to someone who doesn't value you in the same way. It means you stop living in denial, stop clinging to hope that's one-sided, and instead face reality with clarity. The reality is, if she was truly in love, if she truly saw you as part of her future, she wouldn't let distance destroy the bond. She wouldn't let effort fade. She wouldn't allow her emotional investment to disappear. A woman who is fully committed makes it clear, no matter the circumstances. Men who fail to accept reality often waste months or even years waiting for a woman who has already moved on in her heart. They sit around hoping she'll come back, replaying old memories and building fantasies of what could be. But hope without action is just self-deception, and the longer you hold on to someone who isn't holding on to you, the more you lose yourself in the process. That's why acceptance is a form of self-respect. It allows you to let go of what no longer serves you and open the door to what's meant for you. A high-value man doesn't need to chase or beg for love. He knows that the right woman will never put him in a position where he has to. The right woman chooses to stay, no matter what opportunities come her way. And if she doesn't, then she's simply not the one for you. That realization is liberating because instead of clinging to a relationship that's fading, you redirect your energy toward building the best version of yourself and attracting someone who sees your worth without question. At the end of the day, acceptance isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the ability to recognize when holding on only hurts you and when letting go sets you free. And in that freedom, you gain the clarity and confidence to attract the kind of love that never leaves when life gets tough.